Hey guys, Thrasher here, and today we're talking about the most efficient way to power up your characters in Dragon Ball Legends. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, there are really two ways to power up your character. There's leveling and there's soul boosting. And obviously you have to do a certain amount of soul boosting to get your character past a certain level. The question I get a lot is, should I be soul boosting my character to 100% on a single tree before I level them up, before I class them up and continue leveling? And the answer is no. You should be doing the very bare minimum to be able to class your character up and keep leveling them. Levels are by far the fastest way to power up your character and the most efficient. So anything that hinders your leveling is not worth it. So if you can throw some extra panels up there and activate those, and it won't slow down your leveling process, like you won't get the character to the next tier and run out of rising souls before you can level again, then by all means do it. And I'll explain the order you should be opening panels up in just a second. But I just want to really hammer home the point that leveling is more important than soul boosting once you've done the very bare minimum of soul boosting so that you can class up. Okay, so the next thing that I want to explain is that there are a couple phases to soul boosting. So the first phase is you soul boost your character the bare minimum so that they can class up. And there are different tiers of boost panels. So as you can see here, there's a lot of boost panels in the center that I have activated, and then I have a bunch of boost panels off to the side activated over here. The ones in the center here I like to call tier 1 panels. Those are the cheapest panels, and you'll figure out what the cheapest panels are as you go through it. But in order to class up a character, you have to open the amount of panels that there are of tier 1 panels in each tree. So in this tree, there are 20 panels that are all the cheapest cost. So what you have to do to class up is you have to open 20 panels. I suggest you do the cheapest 20, which are these center ones. In this one, there's 10 panels that are these tier 1 cheapest panels. And then over here, we're not sure how many you're going to need to actually class up, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be these tier 1 panels that I'm talking about, which there are 20 of in this tree. So after you have all the tier 1 panels done and you've classed your character up, they're level 1000, you want to start soul boosting beyond those tier 1 panels. What is the process? In my opinion, the best way is you go back to your tier 1 or your level 1 tree, and you are going to work your way out to the most important arts card for your character. So for Gohan, he is a melee damage dealer. So strike arts cards are where he does most of his damage. You want to essentially make a beeline for this strike arts card right here, this purple guy. What that's going to do, every level in your strike arts, why is it? There we go. Every level in your strike arts is going to increase your strike arts card damage by 5%. And that's a massive buff compared to all these other stats. So the next thing I would do is go to the other tree and make a beeline for the next strike arts card, which is right over here, this guy right here. Then you go to tier 3, you do the same thing. The cool thing about tier 3 is that the blast arts card and the strike are right next to each other. So I'd grab the strike because that's the best for Gohan, but then I would grab the blast. Now, we've got the normal arts cards, the strikes and the blast done. The next thing I would do is go back to your tier 1, and the tier 1 is going to be a little bit different than the tier 3. So pretty much everything you use in tier 1, outside of just a couple panels, you will not use in tier 3. So they're pretty separate. It's tier 2 that uses resources from tier 1 and from tier 3. So that's where it gets a little weird. But once you have all of your arts card panels activated in tier 1 and tier 2, you go back to tier 3, and there's one up here, which is your special move arts. That is your blue card. So the blue card that does your super powerful move, that is your special move. You're going to increase damage by 5% when you activate this guy right here. There's another card that a lot of people have questions about. This Quirk Skills, that is your green card and your purple card. They're both Quirk Skills. So if you have a character who has a Quirk skill that does damage or buffs a stat in some way, it's going to buff it by 5% more for every level that you put into this, okay? Okay, so now in our tier 1, our tier 2, and our tier 3 tree, we've got all of our purple cards activated. We've made beelines to all of them. Cool. what's the next step? In my opinion, the next step is you go back through Tier 1 first, because they're the cheapest, then Tier 2, then Tier 3, but what you want to do is fill out these trees and go in order of the cost of the panels. So what I would do is find the next cheapest panel, which will probably be this guy, and the way it works is it just branches out. So it starts from this center line that I've been talking about where the cheapest panels are, and it just slowly branches out. Now, the only exception to finishing this off before you go to the next tier is these critical cards right here. In my opinion, the critical cards are not worth the resource investment in comparison to what you get back. So what I would say is definitely put points into them if you have the extra resources, but if you don't have enough resources to open absolutely everything, wait on the critical cards until you have absolutely everything open. And I don't just mean everything in just this one tree, I mean everything in all the trees. Once you have all the trees open, then put points back into critical. And the reason I say that is because critical chance is so low and it has such a small increase in damage, 25%, that it's just not worth it to increase your crit chance from, let's say, 6% up to 6.1%. Leave that for last, like I said. So just to kind of recap here, I'm zoomed out on my Tier 1 tree, and as you can see, there's two purple panels on the far left and the far right. Those are what I aimed for after I finished my my center area where the cheapest panels were. I went straight to those. So from here on out, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly branch out. So let me zoom back in a little bit here. And I'm just going to slowly branch out and start grabbing things that are right next to it. And as you can see, I need to farm more of these level 1 yellow rising souls because I've used them all between my Gohan and my Pycon and all the other characters I've been farming. I haven't had a lot of time to farm these level 1 rising souls, and I play a pretty fair amount. So as you can see, these resources do start to get a little sparse, so you do have to be careful how you power your characters up. But like I said, we open them up in a branching out fashion, slowly getting further and further out until we get to the critical point. And at critical, I would save those for now, go to my Tier 2, where, as you can see, these are also going to cost level 1s, which is why I wouldn't use the critical here. Because as you can see, let's say I do this critical. That's 24 level 1 Rising Souls. For 24 level 1 Rising Souls, I could get, let's see, that's 5, that's 5... That's 5. So right between these 3 right here, that's 15. And then we'll say this strike attack and this one, that's 25. So for one more, rather than getting that tiny bit of crit, I can get 3 strike attack panels that all give me 162 strike attack. And I can get another about 270, what is that, 274 strike defense. So I can get a ton more stats as opposed to 66 crit. It's just not worth the investment until you have nothing else to spend the Rising Souls on. So just skip the criticals. And that's pretty much all there is to powering your character up. There is one more thing I want to mention when it comes to quirk cards. The quirk cards are actually the green and the purple cards, like I said, but there's a specific quirk card that is the Sparking Captain Ginyu that I would assume most players either have now or will be getting very soon since he's free to get. Let's go look at him real quick, and I want to show you something, because a lot of people are trying to use his main ability and then his body switch, and they're missing because they don't understand how it works. I just want to explain real fast. There is a way to see how an attack works. So if you click on Captain Ginyu here, and then you go to show details, you go to his arts, and then you go down here to his body change quirk card. So the way you get this is you use his main ability, and this card will show up in your arts cards at the bottom. You use it. Now, you look at this little grid. Whoops. Look at this little grid right here. As you can see, I'm trying to show it without closing it. As you can see from this little grid right here, it's only got 2 red squares in front of the little player icon, and that's because the closest red square to the player is close range. That's melee range. The middle red square is mid-range. So in order to get to mid-range, if you're at melee range with another player and you backstep once, you're at mid-range. If you backstep again, you're at long range. Because he doesn't have a red square in that third highest square, that means he cannot hit at mid-range. Whoops. Sorry guys, I meant to say he can't hit with it at long range. Okay, now back to your regularly scheduled video. So in order to use this purple body change ability, you have to be either in melee range or you have to be in mid range. Normally when you hit a unit, they will get knocked back to long range. So in order to use body change, you hit the unit to knock them back, and then you have to immediately dash to at least mid range and use body change, or it will not hit. And that's why most people who are saying, oh, I can't use body change, it's not working, that's why it's not working. So that's my little tip on quirk cards and that quirk ability. If you guys have any questions about powering your character up or how this ability for Captain Ginyu works, feel free to throw them down below and I'll make sure to respond to your comments. If you guys like this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.